I usually would call it like sort of lesson days. And so I think one of the best days we had was we're long volatility, long options, and it just kept going up. And so we'd sell some, we'd buy some, but really it was just like kept going up. And then I sold 25 lot of straddles, which is a very small trade. And people were like, oh, we're mad at me for selling those. Like, oh, they're just going up. So we actually went and had lunch, kind of took the day off, and we came back, and of course the straddles had exploded, and and Owen was right. And but that was kind of one of those learning experiences on like letting it ride, I guess. That was a fun one. I do think there were days we went down there where everyone was worried about the day. Maybe it wasn't a blowout day, but maybe it was a day that took a lot of money out of the year. And coming with that positive attitude, and we were able to put the trades together, think about what the next best trade is, and come out to even positive on the day. And I think some of those are more exciting than the other things. I do remember though, like one time, and it wasn't on the trading floor, but it was up in the trading desk, and it was in this office where we were going, and I just sort of gotten back to the trade desk. And one time I traded a 1x2, but it was like a big risk 1x2. It wasn't like a 1 unit for 2 units. And it was like an at the money versus an upside put 1x2 that had a whole bunch of weighted vega, a whole bunch of skew, whole bunch of risk. And I traded like, I don't know, it was a big size for me, but I traded a big size, like 200 or 400, by 800 or something. And I hung up the phone and I traded it for something outrageous, $10 of edge. And, and then my Alex Soon next to me had actually traded a one leg the opposite way, which basically flied it off. So that we virtually had zero risk on, and he got $6 of edge. And so I had to get up, and I did a little dance, even though the dance probably cost me money. And Alex told me that I should sit down and start trading, but I had to celebrate a little bit on that one. There are those times, as I've grown up, I always put percentage chances on things, like from very early on, and didn't realize to the extent or how different it was. But definitely have days like, what is the percent chance that, we might have, blown out, or that, this might be all coming to an end. And I think one day was very after I was like the sole owner and bought out, or the sole majority owner. And I just took some time to compose myself, because it was a bad night. And then I'm walking out, calling my wife to talk to her about what might have happened, and if we might have to put more money in, which I didn't have much money on the side at all. And it was such an interesting experience, because it was an awful day. And I think at one point, there's like probably 2 or 3 times where like there's the heart attack times, and that was one of them. But there was like a certain calm about it. When at the end of it, it's like, well, if the worst thing that happens, I still can go back and live the rest of my life. And there was a little bit, I think the calm was because there was a little bit of the pressure's not on anymore. And that was a very interesting moment to realize how much pressure the trading is on, not only as the individual and what that means for the family, but also the entire company. And I still feel that pressure now. And I think it was definitely one of the things I learned about from that moment that seems so dark. No, I've never blown out, but there have been those times that are close. And as a trading firm, just have to keep constantly working on the risk metrics so that we shouldn't blow out, and we always have our bases covered. So it's hard, of course, and there have been stresses when we're running a strategy that another big firm is running, and they blow out, that puts stress on us. But we constantly have to be better and have diversified risks, because it's a company with lots of people depending on us. And, I want to be, I want to make sure that we have everything in place so that, I've never blown out and will never blow out, because there's a lot of people depending on us. I'm pretty good at math, But if you look at me compared to these people on the floor, oh my gosh, they were outstanding, you know? And it's the 1% of the 1% on there. And or I remember a trader from another firm at one point, I'm up there, hand shaking, you know, we still had sheets at the time, and I'm trying to figure out how to make my market. And it was a simple one too. It was just like a time spread. It should have easy subtraction on it. And I'm pretty sure he waited until I was about to say a market. Just as I'm saying a market, he of course made the better one. And then I had to just join his market. So it was embarrassing from one, how long it took me, and the fact that I just had to join his market after he still beat me. But, you know, I think it's just figuring out what I could provide. And one thing that I think I ended up doing with the brokers is I was able to really talk to find out, what are you wanting from this? And like, how could I help them maybe finding another order that their person would be interested in, or telling them how, when this happens, I'll be able to trade X amount. And so I really was good at that constant communication, I think, and really trying to fill the broker's order at the, you know, best price, I guess. In general, bullish on the stock market. I think it's going to go up. But a lot of times I wasn't, you know, personally invested, because I felt that was also the scenario that might blow out my trading career. So then I didn't want to have the personal assets necessarily super long. But in trading, I don't think, you know, the question is like, what do we think is better, or to compare and contrast? It's really this idea about being consistent with it. And so similarly, we have traders that sometimes want to be either long vol or short vol. And really both can make money, but the key is to be able to trade around that position and to be comfortable with it. And so if someone is comfortable with the position, that is something that's better than, you know, than maybe necessarily having the absolute best position that makes the most money, because it allows them to trade the most, which is, you know, as a trading firm, trading back and forth is the most profitable. Yeah, from my first company. And, you know, I learned a lot from Tim McGugan and Mike Giangiorgi, and very different things from each of them. And then from all the traders back then, learning and asking people in the pit too, how do they think about risk? And I know from a whole bunch of traders, really seeded ideas of like what I would want to do with my model in the future. And then down there, what they thought we mispriced, and why they would pick the size that they would choose. And so, I think a lot of people taught me things. And so I'm thankful for that, and thankful for those conversations. And hopefully I passed some knowledge back and forth too. And I was a part of some other people learning how to be better traders. Yeah, very different. September 11th, the reopen, you know, we were closed for so many days, and that reopen was crazy. Just everyone going out there trying to decide what a realistic market was. And then I remember my boss at the time said like, okay, we're not gonna, you know, we're gonna have this exact plan. And we came out and there was an offer, you know, and we like set our sheets, we calibrated our sheets at the time that we thought were kind of close. And he bought something like $10 over, and then straddles got smoked the rest of the day. So they were way down. That was a huge loser. But then we marked it out a week later, and that trade had made a ton of money. And so it's always understanding that like, yeah, maybe it was a bad trade, but maybe it wasn't. And really understanding that how things can work out all the time. Yeah. I mean, that's a part of it, whether it's on the close or the open. And sometimes those are the most profitable, and sometimes they're the ones that sting. They're usually always pretty big one way or the other, I would say. Because, you know, there's no, especially on the close, there's nothing you can do to get out of it. I remember one of the biggest hubris stories was we just had this position, and every time you get into a position where you don't think you can lose, that's where you should have a little bit of worry. And so we had financed a position like if it was an expiration, I think probably January of 2008. And we had this position where if we went down, let's say 2%, we were just going to make a ton of money. And then we were relatively insured. We were like long units, which was unusual for us. We were pretty much long everything. But there was this weird trade where we were short AM PM, so we were long the AM, but we actually short the PM. Oh, that's right. And it was actually we were short the next. It was over. I think it was over MLK Day, and then some announcement came out. Some announcement came out about one of the whales or something came out over that time period, and that they needed to sell a whole bunch of stock, and the market just tanked. And so that was like I thought that we were set up for a complete winner on a down move, but because of this weird timing, we ended up actually losing a decent amount of money on that. So yeah, definitely gotten stuck a lot on trades. I mean, all kinds of things. I mean, the jokes were all the time. Definitely there were some people when it got super slow would start singing, which was, both annoying and pretty comical. I think there was just a lot of discussions. I mean, I was constantly asking people about how they viewed risk. Would they trade this? Would they trade that? How do they think about sizing? And then just checking in on people. I mean, you get to know people really well when you're with them a whole bunch of times for a long period of time, and getting to know them well. We very rarely left the floor, especially when I was in the back early on. I had I don't know, I think it was illegal, so they're not going to come get me, but I would have my little shake. And so I wouldn't leave the floor for anything, not even usually, a lot of times not even to go to the bathroom. And so, because that was the time you could move forward. And so instead of being behind 3 rows of people that played Big Ten football, I would actually get to come right next to the brokers. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is so easy and it's amazing. And so that was the time that it was almost inverse. I definitely would never take a bathroom break during the slow time, because that's when I had access to the flow and the brokers.